Daniel demanded this confrontation to expose the brother who ruined his marriage, his business, and his reputation. But the moment Dr. Phil opened that medical file on live TV, it didn't expose Marcus. It revealed a terminal diagnosis hidden for 6 years and a choice between two brothers' lives that only one of them knew existed. The studio lights felt like an interrogation. Daniel sat on the left side of the stage, his leg bouncing against the floor, the sound echoing through the silent audience. Marcus sat across from him, perfectly still, hands folded in his lap like he was waiting for sentencing. "Tell him what you did," Daniel said. His voice cracked. "Tell him how you stole my wife." Marcus didn't look up. His jaw tightened. "I didn't steal. You slept with her." Daniel shot forward in his chair. "My business partner. My brother. You destroyed everything I built, and you." He stopped. His hands were shaking. "You didn't even apologize." Dr. Phil leaned forward. "Marcus, is that true?" Marcus finally looked up. His eyes were red but dry. "Yes." The audience gasped. "But it's not." Marcus swallowed hard. "It's not what you think." Daniel laughed. It was hollow. "Oh, this should be good. What's the excuse this time? You were drunk? You were lonely? She seduced you?" Marcus's hands tightened in his lap. "I can't tell you." "You can't." Daniel stood up. "Are you kidding me right now?" Dr. Phil raised a hand. "Sit down, Daniel." "Marcus, why can't you tell him?" Marcus looked at Dr. Phil. For 3 seconds, he said nothing. You could hear the ventilation system humming. "Because," Marcus whispered, "if I tell him, it'll kill him." Daniel froze. His face went white. Dr. Phil opened the folder on his lap. "Let's talk about the business." "Daniel, you and Marcus started a construction company together in 2016. By 2019, you were doing $2 million a year. Then what happened?" Daniel sat back down slowly. His voice was quieter now. "He started missing meetings. Gustin Clio. I covered for him for months. Then one day, he emptied the business account. $300,000. Gone. Where'd the money go, Marcus?" Marcus didn't answer. "He won't say," Daniel said bitterly. "He took it. Destroyed our reputation. Cost me everything. Then 6 months later, I come home early and find him in my house with my wife." The audience murmured. Dr. Phil looked at Marcus. "You took the money. You slept with his wife. You ruined his business. And you won't explain why." Marcus's leg started bouncing. "Attell." He looked at the floor. "I can't. Can't or won't. Both." Daniel leaned forward. His voice dropped. "You know what the worst part is? I would have forgiven you. If you just told me why. If you just," he stopped. Looked away. "But you didn't. You just disappeared. You became a stranger." Marcus's hands started trembling. He tucked them under his legs. Dr. Phil watched him carefully. "Marcus, I've been doing this for 21 years. I've seen liars. I've seen narcissists. I've seen people who destroy their families for selfish reasons." He paused. "You're not any of those things." Marcus looked up. His eyes were glassy now. "So, I'm going to ask you one more time," Dr. Phil said. "Why?" Marcus opened his mouth. Closed it. His breathing got shallow. His voice broke. "I can't. Please don't make me." But Dr. Phil had already made a decision. Before the taping, Marcus's ex-girlfriend had sent something to the show. An envelope, medical records, and a letter that explained everything. Drop a comment right now. Do you think Marcus is protecting Daniel or himself? Dr. Phil reached under his chair and pulled out a manila envelope. The moment Marcus saw it, his entire body went rigid. "No." Marcus stood up. "No, you can't. Sit down," Dr. Phil said firmly. "Phil, please. Sit down." Marcus collapsed back into the chair. His hands covered his face. Daniel looked between them, confused. "What is that?" Dr. Phil didn't answer. He opened the envelope slowly, pulled out a single piece of paper. His eyes scanned the first few lines. His face changed. For 5 seconds, he didn't move. The audience was dead silent. Then Dr. Phil looked up at Marcus, and his expression was something the cameras had never captured before. Sadness. "How long have you known?" Dr. Phil asked quietly. Marcus's voice was barely a whisper. 6 years. Daniel stood up. "Known what? What are you talking about?" Dr. Phil looked at Daniel. "Sit down, son." "No. What's in that envelope?" Dr. Phil's jaw tightened. He looked at Marcus. Do you want to tell him? Or should I? Marcus shook his head. Tears were streaming down his face now. I can't. I can't do it. Then I will. Dr. Phil turned to Daniel. In March of 2019, Marcus was diagnosed with acute myeloid leukemia. Stage 3. The doctors gave him 2 years without treatment. Maybe 5 with it. The air left the room. Daniel's legs gave out. He sat down hard. What? The treatment, Dr. Phil continued, cost $400,000. Insurance denied the claim because of a pre-existing condition Marcus didn't know he had. He needed the money immediately or he would die. Daniel's hands went to his head. Oh my God. He took the money from the business, Dr. Phil said. He didn't steal it. He borrowed it to save his own life. Marcus was sobbing now, his shoulders shaking. Daniel looked at him, stunned. Why didn't you tell me? I would have given you everything. Because you were about to propose to Sarah, Marcus choked out. You just put a down payment on a house. You were finally happy after Dad died. And he wiped his eyes roughly. I couldn't take that from you. So you took the money instead? I was going to pay it back. I swear to God, I was going to pay it back. I got a second job. I was selling everything I owned. But then, his voice cracked. Then I got worse. The treatment wasn't working, and I needed more money. More than I could ever make back. Dr. Phil looked back at the envelope. But that's not the whole story, is it? Marcus closed his eyes. Tell him about Sarah, Dr. Phil said. Daniel's head snapped up. What about Sarah? Marcus was shaking his head over and over. Please, please don't. Marcus, Dr. Phil said gently. He deserves to know. Marcus took a shuddering breath. When he spoke, his voice was hollow. Sarah knew. About the cancer. I told her because I needed someone to know, in case I died. Someone who could tell you after. Daniel's face twisted. You told my wife before you told me? I made her promise not to say anything. But Marcus looked at his hands. She started visiting me in the hospital, bringing me food, sitting with me during chemo. And I was so sick and so scared and so alone, and she was the only person who knew, and… Oh my God, Daniel whispered. You fell in love with her. No. Marcus looked up. His eyes were desperate. No. Daniel, listen to me. I never. But Dr. Phil interrupted. That's not what happened. He pulled out another piece of paper from the envelope. This is a letter from Sarah, written 3 months ago. Should I read it? Marcus's face crumbled. Please don't. Dr. Phil read anyway. I'm writing this because Marcus will never tell the truth. In August of 2019, the doctors told Marcus he needed a bone marrow transplant or he would die within 6 months. Daniel was the only match. But if Daniel knew Marcus was sick, he would have donated immediately. And the transplant would have destroyed Daniel's immune system for a year. Maybe permanently. Daniel stood up slowly. What? Marcus refused to tell him. He said he'd rather die than risk Daniel's health. So I made a choice. I seduced Marcus. I made Daniel think we were having an affair. I knew it would destroy their relationship. I knew Daniel would never speak to Marcus again. And I knew that meant Marcus would never ask for the transplant. The silence in the studio was deafening. Dr. Phil kept reading. Asterisk, I did it to protect Daniel. Marcus was going to die anyway. The transplant was a long shot. But if it failed, Daniel would have been sick too, or worse. I couldn't let that happen. So I made Marcus the villain. And I've hated myself for it every day since. Daniel's legs gave out again. He sat down, staring at nothing. Marcus was crying so hard he couldn't speak. Daniel, Dr. Phil said softly. Marcus didn't sleep with your wife. She kissed him once. In the hospital. And he pushed her away. But she told you it went further to make sure you'd hate him. To make sure he'd never ask you for help. Daniel looked at Marcus. His face was unreadable. You let me hate you. For 6 years. You let me think you destroyed my life. His voice broke. You were dying, and you didn't tell me. I couldn't, Marcus whispered. You would have given me the transplant. And it might have killed you. I couldn't, he covered his face. I couldn't live knowing I took you away from your kids. I don't have kids. But you would have. Someday. And I wasn't going to. Marcus's whole body was shaking. I wasn't going to take that chance. Dr. Phil set down the papers. For a long moment, he just looked at both brothers. Then he did something he'd never done in 21 years of hosting. He looked directly at the camera. We're going to stop filming for a minute." The producers looked at each other, confused. But Dr. Phil waved them off. He turned back to Daniel. "Your brother is still sick. The treatment bought him time, but he's not in remission. He's living on borrowed months. Maybe a year. The doctors don't know." Daniel's hands went to his mouth. "And here's what you need to understand," Dr. Phil continued. "He didn't come on this show to defend himself. He came because Sarah told him you were spiraling, drinking, lost your job, and he thought if you could finally yell at him, finally get it all out, maybe you could move on." His voice softened. He was willing to let you hate him forever if it meant you'd be okay. Daniel looked at Marcus. His eyes were red. "You idiot." Marcus let out a broken laugh. "Yeah, you absolute idiot." Daniel stood up, walked across the stage. For a second, it looked like he might hit him. Instead, he grabbed Marcus and pulled him into a hug. Marcus broke down completely. "I am sorry," Marcus sobbed. "I'm so sorry." "Shut up," Daniel said, his voice thick. "Just shut up." They stood there for a long time. The audience was crying. Dr. Phil looked away, his jaw tight. Finally, Daniel pulled back. He gripped Marcus's shoulders. "How much time?" "I don't know. Maybe a year. Maybe less." Daniel nodded slowly. "Then we're not wasting any more of it. You're moving in with me. We're fixing this. All of it." "Daniel, I can't. You don't get a choice anymore. You hear me? You don't get to martyr yourself. You don't get to disappear." His voice cracked. "You're my brother, and I'm not losing you without a fight." Marcus closed his eyes, nodded. Dr. Phil looked at the camera. "We checked in with Daniel and Marcus 6 months after that taping. Daniel had become Marcus's full-time caretaker. They'd reconciled with Sarah, who divorced Daniel but remained close to both brothers. And Marcus had enrolled in an experimental trial that was showing promising results. The screen showed a photo. Daniel and Marcus on a couch, watching a football game. Marcus looked thinner, weaker, but he was smiling. "We don't know how this story ends," Dr. Phil said. "But we know this. Marcus spent 6 years sacrificing himself to protect his brother. And Daniel spent 6 months proving that some bonds can't be broken. Not by lies, not by betrayal, not even by death." He paused, looked directly at the camera. "Sometimes the people who hurt us the most are the ones protecting us the hardest. And sometimes forgiveness isn't about being right. It's about recognizing love, even when it's wrapped in pain." Here's my question for you. If you were Daniel, could you forgive someone who let you hate them for 6 years, even if they did it to save your life? Or is there a point where protection becomes betrayal? Drop your answer below, because this question doesn't have an easy answer. And maybe that's the point. Next video, she raised his son for 14 years. Then a stranger knocked on the door with photos that changed everything. See you there.